Hi, it's Maija here, and I know I already made one most anticipated releases of 2019 video, but after I had made that I came across the Locus Magazine's list of forthcoming books, which I will link in the description, so I read that and came up with a bunch more books that I'm eagerly awaiting in 2019. In February, Snow White learns witchcraft stories and poems by Theodora Goss comes out, and this collects together 8 stories and 23 poems from Goss, and since most of them promise to be fairy tale retellings, I am all for this. There's also another collection that I'm interested in that comes out in February, and that is The Very Best of Caitlín or Kiernan, and this is a retrospective volume of her finest work, previously only collected in sold-out limited editions. It has been so difficult to find out Kiernan's short work that I am so glad that a new collection is coming out, and she writes dark fantasy and horror, in case you didn't know. In April we're going to get a new Planetfall novel from Emma Newman, and this is Atlas Alone, and this is a science fiction series of connected standalone works with different protagonists, and I really like this series. This is said to be a novel about vengeance and a woman deciding if she can become a murderer to save the future of humanity. In May we get The October Man by Ben Aaronovitch, and this is another novella set in the Peter Grant universe, but in this one we don't follow Peter Grant, we follow Detective Tobias Winter as he uncovers the truth behind a savage murder in Trier, Germany. In June, The Deep from River Solomon comes out, and this is a book inspired by a rap song by Clipping, and it tells of an underwater society inhabited by descendants of African slave women. I haven't read Solomon's debut novel, An Unkindness of Ghosts, yet, so I don't know if I click with her writing style, but both of her books are on my to-read one day list. Then I have a horror book in July, The Toll by Cherie Priest comes out, and this is on my list because I like the other horror novel that I read from her this year, The Family Plot. So this seems to be about a couple called Titus and Davina Bell who are driving their car on their way to a canoeing holiday, but they come across this rickety old bridge which has only room for one car. Much later another car arrives and the driver finds Titus lying in the middle of the road with Davina nowhere in sight. And the name of the book is The Toll, so that doesn't promise anything good. In July, Turning Darkness into Light by Mary Brennan comes out. Now I may have only read the first book in the 5-book Memoirs by Lady Trent series, but that doesn't stop me from being excited in this standalone sequel. This one follows the granddaughter of the main character from the first series, and like Lady Trent, who is a dragon naturalist in the first series, her granddaughter Audrey Camhurst also wants to make her scholarly mark upon her chosen field of study. I'm not quite sure what that field is, but this is historical fantasy, so bring it on. In September, The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin apparently comes out, and this is a new novel by one of my favorite authors, and it is her first contemporary fantasy novel, and I think it's set in New York City. I did read the short story from which this novel sprang from. It's called The City Born Great, about these people who are spirits of these different cities. It wasn't my favorite from her, but then again I prefer novels to short works, so I'm excited to see how she tackles this idea in a novel. And finally, Locus says that these last 2 books are also coming out in September 2019, but I can't find information about the release date anywhere else to confirm it. But in September, supposedly we will get The Sinister Mystery of the Mesmerizing Girl by Theodora Goss, which is the 3rd book in the Extraordinary Adventures of Athena Club. So this is the 2nd book from Goss on this list, and while I was trying to Google a release date, I found this interview where Goss said that this is the final book in the series, so apparently it's a trilogy. I have only read the first book, The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter, and it brought together these young girls from different Gothic classic books, like there was a Frankenstein, a Jekyll and a Hyde, and there were these young girls going on an adventure, and I'm really looking forward to reading the 2nd book and then the 3rd. So there's pretty much no information yet about this 3rd book apart from the title. And the final book on the Locus list for September, which I was interested in, was the book that I also mentioned in my last video at the end of it, which was The Twisted Ones by Ursula Vernon, writing as T. Kingfisher. And like I said there, I didn't know if it was coming out in 2019 or 2020, but because it is on this list, it seems that it will at least come out in 2019, if not in September like the list says. So those were 9 more of my most anticipated releases for 2019. I am now stuck in this loop apparently where I keep finding new stuff to read for 2019. Let me know if you are interested in any of these books that I talked about, if you have read any of the past books of these authors. And that's all from me for now. I will see you in my next video.